We are so glad to have Rabbi Leah Shakdiel here. She was born in Jerusalem in 1951 to a family of modern Orthodox pioneers. Moved to Yeruham, a small development town in the Negev Desert in 1978 with a group committed to Halacha, social responsibility, peace, and ecology. Mother of Rachel, Tzvi, and Pinchas, and grandmother of Toviya, Channah, Miriam, and Batya. A BA from Bar Ilan University in English and French literatures. Other studies include Bible and oral law, Jewish thought, Jewish history, and education. She taught Hebrew and Jewish studies, developed teaching materials, trained teachers, coordinated and directed projects and institutions in the areas of education and community. She taught courses on Jewish feminism, state and religion, and Israeli society in the Schechter Institute and Sapir College in post-high school pre-military programs. Socially and politically active on behalf of peace, empowering the disadvantaged, civil and human rights, and feminism. Published academic and popular articles in all these areas. She serves as the first Yeruham town council female member ever. In 1988, became Israel's first female member of a local religious council following a successful struggle that ended with a landmark Supreme Court decision. As a scholar, sorry, I lost my train there. As a School for Educational Leadership Fellow, she developed a model for feminist pedagogy for Israel. Recipient of the Yig'al Alon Prize for Lifework as a pioneer, the Israeli Parliament Distinction for Women Leading Change twice, and the New Israel Fund Prize for Human Rights. She studied Orthodox rabbinical ordination in Beit Midrash Har'el, Jerusalem, and was ordained in 2019. So with that, thank you so much for being here. We're so glad to have you teach a class with us. And I
I'm
will
glad to
turn
be
it,
here.
great,
Mhm,
I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I will start by introducing a distinction that I find extremely useful between Jews of Purim and Jews of Pesach. Um, Jews of Purim, you know the story of Purim. It's all about anti-Semitism, persecution in a win-lose world. Uh, Either you are killed by people who persecute you, or you have the upper hand and you end up killing your enemies. Um, I think that there is a version of Zionism which I totally don't go by, but lots of people, lots of Jews, apply that understanding of Jewish history even to the Zionist movement, even to life as citizens in a sovereign state, a Jewish state these days. They think it is all about the memory of a very strong memory, which is right there below the surface, and everything that happens in the world gets interpreted according to this perspective. So, October 7th, you name it, everything that happens intrigues the same consciousness that you see, we have always uh, expected that, and the safe moments we had in between were sparse and far between, and this is really the essence of who we are as Jews forever. So much for the Jews of Purim. On the other hand, there is another concept of what it is to be a Jew, and which is known or termed as Jews of Pesach. We were terribly persecuted when we were in Egypt. We were enslaved, and we all know that the Exodus and the salvation out of slavery into freedom have become a paradigm for the whole world of liberation. not just for us Jews, but for lots of people in the rest of the world. And so on the surface, it could have been the same thing as the story of Purim, but it isn't, because the story of coming out of Egypt, of being liberated from this terrible slavery, is not about vengeance and that's it. It's about going towards undertaking a new discipline upon ourselves, being delivered from slavery to Pharaoh into the discipline of the Torah. And the most important thing that we put at the center of the Pesach story is the idea that since we were historically enslaved, we were strangers, we were gerim in Egypt, we were vulnerable, unsafe victims. This is what we have to remember, that this historical experience obligates us to side with the persecuted ones wherever we go. I think that the difference between these two Jewish dates that we mark on the Jewish calendar is striking, and it's not as if Purim does not figure on our calendar. Of course it does. However, we cannot just have Purim control us all year round, 24/7. This is what we do. This is who we are. I grew up in a Zionist home, a religious Zionist home, where Zionism was interpreted in a way that I carry with me throughout life. It was interpreted as a revolution in the way Jews conceive of themselves. They refuse, we Zionist Jews, our Zionism boils down to the fact that we refuse to be eternal victims of history. We insist on liberating ourselves into responsible historical subjects. We play a part in history as active people, not as passive victims. That means that we appeal to what was then called the family of peoples, Mishpachat Ha'amim in Hebrew, those peoples who think of entire humanity as one family. As we are all humans created in the image of God, therefore we are all children of God. We are obligated in solidarity, in what the French Revolution called fraternity. We are all brothers and sisters, which means that we are all there for each other. If I demand that the family of nations recognize me as a historical subject alongside other free nations, that obligates me to recognize the equal humanity and of all nations, and that includes Arabs, wherever they are. That includes Palestinians. That includes Palestinians who are under our rule. And let me be more specific here on two levels. One is, I think that modern democracy is indeed revolutionary in the sense that instead of the Purim mentality of win-lose social contract and political contract, which was taken for granted in pre-democratic world. In a win-lose world, of course, you'd like to be the winner. rather than the loser. Substituting that for a new social and political contract of win-win, within which nobody gets 100% of what they want. Everybody gets a little less in order to make sure that everyone has enough. That means that as a Jew, returning to the land of my forefathers and foremothers, on a certain level, I have a right to the entire land. However, in a win-win world, there's no way I can have my way. The historical fact is that Zionism set out as one liberation movement. In fact, it also put into the world another liberation movement, which is the Palestinian liberation movement. Once we Jews said that we have the right and we ask for the support of the family of nations to our right to sovereignty in the land of Israel, the Arabs, within the parameters of the land of Israel, no longer see themselves only as part of the big Arab Qawmiya. They see themselves specifically as part of the specific Sha'ab people that lives in a specific Wataniya, which is Palestine. So whether we like it or not, there are two national movements, there are two peoples in that land. And as I repeat that phrase, as historical subjects who are responsible for our fate and not just victims of history, we have the mission of operating in this world where actually we share a land, we belong in a land where there is another people that equally belongs in this land. Another people with another history. We're not trying here to create parallel or equal narratives, not at all. The whole idea of the family of nations means that every nation in that family has its own peculiar history and political conditions. However, above and beyond the specific differences between the different nations, there's one thing that unites us all, and that is our mutual respect for each other's sovereignty and identity, historical narrative, religious identity, whatever it is. I was brought up in this under this understanding. I'm afraid to say that the postmodernism that we are now experiencing weakens that modernist dream of modern states, each state securing the citizenship, meaning the human rights and the civil rights of the citizens living within it, and all the states together supporting each other in a world that has this peculiar equilibrium between states that have equal membership in this world, in spite of the big differences between them, much as we say that the whole notion of equality between human beings is something that goes beyond the big obvious differences between us as human beings on all levels, recognizing the equal rights of all humans goes on to another level of recognizing the equal rights of the different nations, and that obligates us as Jews in our land. In other words, I'm a Zionist. A lot of my friends that I'm active with, and in a minute I'll go into this current day activism. A lot of my friends here in Israel don't understand how come I do not repudiate Zionism altogether and move on to what they perceive as post-Zionism. Some of them are leaving Israel to live elsewhere because they don't want to have anything to do with Zionism, and they don't want their children to grow up in within the parameters of Zionism and the Zionist state of Israel. I refuse to go there. I am a Zionist, but I insist on the definition of Zionism as I have delineated in the last few minutes. I think that this leaves me with a sense of double responsibility. I have a responsibility towards the people of Israel. I have a responsibility for the defense of the people of Israel, for the safe life of the people of Israel. I definitely think that, and the Palestinians that I am and have been for the past 50 years in touch with, understand the need for self-defense for themselves, as well as they understand why I, a Jew living in Israel, I also have the need for self-defense. The name of the Israeli army, I think we should remember, is Tzva Haganah Israel, the army for the defense of Israel. Okay, and the ministry that takes care of it is not named the Ministry of War. It is named the Ministry of Security, Misrad HaBitachon. This language is extremely important, and I refuse to let it be waived as some sort of new speak, Orwellian way, hiding behind it policies that are immoral, criminal, and repulsive. I take it very seriously, and I'm committed to keeping it that way. But I think that the historical responsibility that comes with the ability to defend myself comes also with a very strict discipline of what it means to live in this country. The fact of the matter is that, and here I want to move to the next stage of my talk. In the Middle Ages, there's a famous book called the Kuzari, written by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi in Spain. And it is written as a dialogue between a Jewish scholar and the king of Khuzar, who had a dream, and he is on the verge of converting to Judaism. And it's a very unforgiving dialogue between the two of them, all right? And at one instance, the king of Khuzar says to the Jewish scholar, "You Jews brag that you are very compassionate. Well, it's only because you don't have the historical opportunity these days to actually express yourselves fully. You are a minority, a persecuted minority, a despised religion, and as such, of course, you have to lower your head and bend down to the peoples around you so you can claim that you are compassionate. Wait. When the opportunity comes for you to have the power to behave like other nations with independent political power, you're not going to be any better than other nations. So this special compassion that your people has is not really in your nature. It's not innate. It is only an expression of your historical circumstance. I am afraid that this particular passage is too real to be ignored. I recently read an article by some right-wing thinker who was complaining that liberal Jewish thinkers quote that passage by misreading it, and then he stood on his head trying to interpret that passage otherwise. It's ridiculous. I think that this is what we see in our own days. Zionism, and I don't think that the problem started with Netanyahu. I definitely don't think that the problem started with the Nakba of 1948. I think that when we, the Jewish people, became an active historical subject, we knowingly, I don't think it was like it just happened. I think that we knowingly walked into the mess of opening ourselves to exactly the danger that the king of Khuzar warned us about way back in the Middle Ages. Ever since the beginning of Zionism, it was very difficult to learn how to defend ourselves while obligating ourselves to a strict ethical discipline, how to be invested in reviving the land, reviving the language, bringing the exiles in, and creating a flourishing modern state in the land of our forefathers and foremothers, and at the same time restricting ourselves to the discipline of morality according to universal values that obligate all people and all peoples. We had a hard time doing so, and Zionism made a lot of, is responsible for a lot of incidents, criminal incidents, when things did not go according to that vision. Every time it happened, it was necessary to investigate why it happened and how to contain it and move on. Since I'm speaking here to people in the United States, I recently read all 950 pages of Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States of America. So I just would like to remind everybody here that it's not as if the United States has not been implicated in this type of crimes or any other nation on the face of the earth. So let's not gloat. I'm just saying that as a Jew, as a Zionist Jew, as a religious Zionist Jew, as an Israeli religious Zionist Jew, I am obligated to look at those things critically and to join those who claim that it is necessary to admit that this has been happening and to correct it and hold it in rein. these days, okay, I'm not going to go over the whole history of Zionism. It's not necessary here. I'd like to address what is happening today. Today, on the 20th of July, okay, we voted for the primaries of the Democratic Party of Israel. We still don't know the results. But I am a member of that card-carrying member of this party. And I am also part of two different groups in that party. One group is the anti-occupation group, and the other group is the Smol Emuni, okay, the faithful left group. Both groups are interested in examining the candidates in that primaries to see how strongly they are committed to fighting actively the crimes that are committed by the state of Israel right here and now. I still don't know the results, okay, but definitely that was my guideline. Because what we are seeing today is that the policy of apartheid exercised openly in Israel towards the what's known as the occupied territories. You know, the word occupation in English is rather a neutral word. It only means that an army occupies territory outside the borders of the state of that army. Okay, the occupation of the U.S. in Germany after World War II, whatever. The word in Hebrew, kibush, is much stronger. It means conquest. And in the Bible, the word kibush refers to the actual oppression of living things, of not just you are there on the territory, okay? Because according to international law, when you are there in the territory, you have to worry first and foremost about the lives of the people who live there. Israel conquers, okay, not just occupies, territories in which it practices apartheid, meaning two legal systems in the same territory, one for the Palestinians and the other one for the Jews who are moving there against international law. You know, you should see what happens in my classes when I ask who here comes from a settler's family, and people raise their hands, and I say, well, for your information, you are transgressors of international law, avaryanim in Hebrew. Hell breaks loose because it's the first time in their lives that anybody actually tells them that they transgress a law by the very fact that they are there. It doesn't matter if they are nice people or not. So this apartheid, which is without using this appellation, this is Israel's policy. And I would like to say that even inside the Green Line, there are elements of apartheid. For example, I live in the Negev Desert, and there are regional councils, okay, responsible for the different settlements in that area. There are separate regional councils for the Bedouin unrecognized villages in the same geographical unit where there are Jewish settlements governed by the regional councils of Jewish places, okay? So there are elements of apartheid also inside the Green Line, but blatantly it's in the occupied territories. Israel practiced that even in the Gaza Strip, and I'm saying before October 7th, when, you know, formally speaking, it had withdrawn from it, but actually it governed everything that had to do with infrastructures, with the aerial space, with the marine space outside of it. it was like the Gaza Strip was one huge, maybe I can apply here the word ghetto, because it was like restricted, okay, and closed space for 2 million people. Israel practiced that apartheid, in the Golan Heights, where many Syrian villages were destroyed in the Six-Day War, and only the Druze were allowed to stay. So without calling it apartheid, I call it apartheid. That was the policy. And as we speak, we experience daily how this apartheid politics turns into ethnic cleansing politics. I'm using harsh words, but I think it is necessary to call a spade a spade. There's a policy of ethnic cleansing being practiced in Gaza, where the life space of the Gaza population is restricted again and again and again. And as we speak, people are being killed there under the flag of security needs of the state of Israel, but it is overwhelming. The number of civilians, including children, doctors, women, old people, sick, it's overwhelming. The ratio of real terrorists killed to the ratio of uninvolved people killed. It is practiced in the West Bank, where I'm a member of a group of the Smol Emuni, the faithful left, which is basically a young movement of young religious people. I'm very proud to be a member of that group. They consider me their grandmother, and they definitely should, because Yecheskel here knows that I've been around in a peace camp for many, many years. And in the beginning, we talked about territorial compromise with the Arabs, maybe with Jordan, and we started talking to actual Palestinians much later. And so I've been around for a long time, and I'm very glad that they consider me an inspiration. If there is a group in Israel that never forgets that I'm an ordained rabbi, it's the faithful left. They keep calling me Rabbanit, 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 Rabbanit Leah. And I'm very proud to belong to a group of them called Bnei Avraham, the children of Abraham, indicating, Jews and non-Jews together in Palestine, who go out to, can you imagine that we needed to invent a term for it called protective presence in order to give a name to what we do. It's a non-violent presence. We are present there with the Palestinians as they are being harassed by settlers. Now, the word harassed is a very general word. It includes theft of their property, theft of their crops, theft of their herds, destruction of their homes, burning of their homes, and sometimes even killings. This is practiced by settlers who are, they used to be called Na'arei Hagvaot, the youth of the hills. What we see on the ground is that, some of them are teenagers, but some of them are not. They're older. And they walk about with their fringes outside and, and their big kippot, skull caps. And they break the Sabbath. They have a custom of doing it, especially on the Sabbath, doing all kinds of destructive actions and actually walking through the lands, the courts, and the homes of those Palestinians with the express violent acts that are meant to scare them off and drive them away, while the police and the IDF, the Israeli Defense, I insisted before, defense, right? Forces stand by and do absolutely nothing. If anything, they protect the settlers and not the Palestinians. And many Palestinians, unfortunately, give in because they cannot exist anymore. We bring them food, can you imagine? Because they literally on the verge of starvation. So seeing all around how the violence perpetrated against the Palestinians in the West Bank is not perpetrated by the local Jewish terrorists and, as we call them, pogroms, right? People. Just like we Jews suffered during the days of the Russian Tsar, it was perpetrated by local hooligans, supported by the official national police, of course, and all the forces. In other words, the official policy of apartheid, which refuses to call itself apartheid, has actually become an official policy of ethnic cleansing without declaring itself ethnic cleansing. But I insist on using those terms. I think that under the guise of war engaged against the Gazans, a war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, this policy is also effective in southern Lebanon, where villages and whole areas are subjected practically to ethnic cleansing in the name of the security of the state of Israel. These ridiculous war on Iran, I don't want to go into the issues of Trump, but okay, I'll leave that to you guys. But it's definitely a ridiculous thing that goes absolutely nowhere under the guise of a war which is presented to the public as a defensive war. Under the guise of that war, we practice, and I'll add here a third difficult term, which I insist on, war crimes. International law, even though we would all like to celebrate, the vision of the prophets of eternal peace, international law recognizes the fact that there could be wars. And international law also puts strictures on laws. And again, don't gloat as Americans. The biggest war crime ever were the 2 A bombs on Japan. Okay. So I'm not okay. All right. So I'm just saying that it's the king of Khuzar was right in his observation about human nature and human history. When we have the power, we open ourselves to the dangers of abuse of power. I think that Israel abuses its power in the policies of apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and war crimes. I think that it is wrong. I understand why people in many places, including, by the way, in Israel, when looking for words to discuss what is happening on the ground, I understand why people are tempted to use a word like genocide. I don't think this is correct. I don't think that there is a scheme here to annihilate the Palestinian people as a people. Okay, we're not there, thank goodness. That's not what we're talking about. And when a lot of us, what comes to our mind is the bullying and the violence happening on the ground. We sometimes think about neo-Nazism, and we think about Nazi practices. We don't talk about the annihilation of the Jewish people. We talk about a dictatorship, okay? That a fascist country where power matters, there is a cult of the leader, and under that cult, the word peace went out the window. Anybody who uses that word is considered an enemy of the nation. Words like human rights, okay, and all the universal values that I think are part of the Zionist vision are completely went out of fashion. The Israeli Ministry of Education is not enforcing any of that vision in its schools, in its curricula. Is that a word in Latin? And in its guidance to teachers, the other way around. If there are brave teachers and school principals in the field or faculties in the academic world that are brave enough to actually alert us to the realities and call us to action, the Ministry of Education actually puts its foot down and tries to suppress it. I think that this is very alarming, this situation. 4 times in the Israeli declaration of the establishment of the State of Israel, that's the correct term, the official term of that document. It's not the Declaration of Independence, as it is known, in a popular way. In that declaration, there are 4 elements that specifically indicate that the vision of the state of the Jews, okay, the Jewish state, is a vision of sovereignty of a people that sees itself obligated to democratic values. The word democracy doesn't appear there. But what binds us to the land of Israel is the Bible, which is of national pride to us, but we also gave it to the rest of the world. During World War II, we are very proud to say that we, the Hebrew community in what was then Palestine, okay, the state to be, all right, the Yishuv in the land of Israel, volunteered to fight in the British Army against the evil of the Nazis alongside the peoples committed to freedom and peace. And thereby, we are standing side by side with the founders of the United Nations. The third thing is that that document promises equal rights to all, including the Arabs in the land, in the state. And we promise to develop the whole country for the benefit of all its residents, including the Palestinians. And the fourth point is that we reach out to peace even in the middle of horrible war, bloody war engaged against us, the Jews of the land of Israel. So those 4 elements in that document are say everything about the vision. That's the Zionist vision that I embrace, that I promote, that I fight for. There's no way it can be discarded, and what we have instead is the policies effected today. When I learned about Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and the work that he did in the United States of America. Look, he was part of the conservative movement, and I am an Orthodox Jew, but the Maimonides in the Middle Ages already said that you take the truth no matter who said that truth. It could be a non-Jew, like the king of Khuzar. It could be a conservative rabbi. It could be, I don't care what, If it's a truth, it's a truth. I told you already that I'm not a postmodernist, okay? There is such a thing as truth. And let's not confuse it with fake news. So one of the terms that he coined was, I am praying with my feet. I think that being a rabbi, and I'm glad to see here Jamie, who is a cousin of mine and also a rabbi, and maybe there are other rabbis out there listening. I think that religious leaders have a responsibility, not just to conduct prayers and to learn holy texts and, I don't know, and get everybody to believe in God and be good Jews, They have the responsibility to make sure that they pray with their feet, that the actions that they perform on the ground, be it a demonstration, be it protective presence of the Palestinians, be it involvement in projects or leading projects that are there for other people. I think that we have that responsibility. One of the books I read recently was a biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a Lutheran, what's the word? Not priest, because he wasn't a Catholic. He was Lutheran. So what's the word? Reverend?
Minister. No?
Minister.
Reverend
Right.
or minister?
Okay. He was minister. Pastor. You're right. And as early as 1933, when the Nazis came to power, he wrote that religious leaders' role is, one, to spell out the truth about the regime, two, to protect the victims of that regime. In his case, it was people who were persecuted by the Nazis. It wasn't just the independent Lutheran Church, it was the Jews and others. And they have that responsibility to stand out there. And three is to actively conduct actions that disrupt the reigning evil political order. This is what religious leaders need to do. So I don't know about the time, but Jasmine, maybe I should, no, it's Emma, it's not Jasmine. Maybe I should stop here for Q&A.
Yeah, I think that's perfect timing.
Okay. You can ask about anything, all right, that I didn't speak about.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute, or you can put it in the chat.
I don't know if there's more than 4 of us on, or there's people that are listening elsewhere, or I can't see them. So
there's some people on Facebook. I'll let you know if there's any comments.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I don't have a question, but I have a statement, sort of, or a comment about activism and inspiration, which is to say, and that I came to Israel at the end of December, and Leah took me to the small Emuni gathering that was happening in Jerusalem, and I was really taken by it, and have spent a fair amount of time trying to get to know the small Emuni here and in Northern California, see what is going on, and becoming inspired, because I came to Israel as part of what is known as the Amplify Israel Rabbinic Fellowship, which is the Reform movement's a group in the reform movement that is our strong Zionists and advocates. And we each have a project, and my project became based on the work of the Smol Emuni, which is a Love Your Neighbor conference, which is happening August 23rd, and with speakers who are actually looking at, through the lens of Torah, what are texts and ideas that lead us to coexistence, as opposed to the Purim model that you were talking about. So I just in terms of activism, I'm not an activist as much as many, but being inspired led me to become, in some ways, what I guess would be considered an activist. And I'm grateful to Leah and to this kind of forum for that inspiration.
Thank you.
Leah, can I ask
Jamie,
you a question?
I'm looking forward to Friday, Jamie.
Yes, I'm going to contact you in the middle, so we'll talk about
please
that.
Do. Please
yeah.
do.
Leah,
mm-hmm.
I put my email in the chat, so I hope to stay in touch.
Please, well, that's not good enough for me because I don't have the time while speaking to you to take it out. So
okay,
please tell Emma to send me your email.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be better.
Great. It'll be the mediator here.
Thank you.
I agree with you 1000%, every word. And I'm heartened that you are still doing this work faithfully, diligently, and haven't lost hope. Looking ahead to the October election, do you think the situation will change sufficiently to overcome this conditioned war mentality that is used as kind of the cover for these crimes? And are there any religious Jews or observant Jews that you think will end up in the next Knesset as our representatives? I say this now, our, because I'm an Israeli, and if I can get there on election day, I will do my best. This is I was there in 2019 to vote, and maybe I can get there. Inshallah, we'll see. But do you see hopeful religious visionaries, leaders, and I might ask you if you've ever considered running yourself on a platform for national office.
Okay, so Yecheskel, I'm 75. This Shabbat Matot Mas'eh, which is like a little bit over a week ago, I celebrated my belated bat mitzvah in my shul in Yeruham because I started the women Torah reading group many years ago. My daughter, who was 45, was the first one to read from the Torah for her bat mitzvah, and I decided it's about time I had a bat mitzvah. Okay, so I think thank you, and I think that the religious person outstanding in the Knesset is Rabbi Gilad Kariv.
Yes.
He is a reform rabbi, but no offense to any listeners here. I know a lot of people who carry the title rabbi, but are not very knowledgeable. He's a good Jewish scholar. I used to read his articles about, Jewish topics, and he's very scholarly. He is out there in protective presence with us, and he is definitely our man in the Knesset. Now, as far as the coming election goes, look, I'm worried because first-time voters are so right-wing that it is atrocious. We're talking about a generation that is educated by TikTok, and I don't even know the name of some of the other platforms, Instagram or God knows what, and they really consider every stupidity and every lie spread on social media as truth from God. They are totally confused. They don't know anything from anything. They have zero knowledge. Recently, one of those social media influencer, somebody found out that she doesn't know who Rabin was. Literally, okay, she doesn't. And so the first-time voters, I think, are, and we hear it in schools everywhere we go. A teacher who said on Facebook that she is upset about the killing of a Iyad el-Khalak in Jerusalem, the boy who was autistic, who was shot by soldiers, for the very fact that she said that a particular Palestinian boy shouldn't have been killed by soldiers, was attacked physically by all the school children in her school. So those first-time voters are going to be horrendous. I'm convinced. The hope lies in, I can say about three things that should happen, that I hope will happen. One is, it appears that the Likud crowd, I mean, the word base is very interesting. It came to us from the United States of America. Okay, the base of the politician. All right, Netanyahu's base is beginning to shake a bit. And I don't know, is it wishful thinking? Somebody like Eisenkot seems to be getting more popularity. I'm not going to vote for him, but so one hope is that maybe Netanyahu will be somehow forced to step down. That's not enough because, you know, it's not about a person as corrupt as he is, all right? It's about something which is ingrained, unfortunately, in the very deeply in who we are as a people. So that's one hope. The other is that the Arab population inside the Green Line will be able to transcend the various reasons that split their votes and causes a lot of despair among voters so that they don't vote. If that vote becomes stronger and more pronounced, we all know that this can happen if people have hope. Remember how dramatically Obama managed to raise the voting rate the first time he got voted, because people had hope, people who had not voted before. And the third thing is that I hope the only left-wing party in Israel, really, is the Democratic Party, the only party that commits itself to a democratic Israel, and that includes not only equal rights to the Palestinians of Israel, but also to cooperating with them in the same government, and to ending the occupation, and to fighting Jewish terrorism in the West Bank, and to ending the war, and recentering peace as a vision for the Jewish state of Israel. So I hope that this party gets stronger, and that enough voters who were kind of giving the voices to central parties like Yesh Atid and Mamlachti will realize that there are times in history when there's no center. One of the lessons that I learned from one of my students, high school students once, was about France during the Dreyfus trial. We all, as Zionists, learned about the Dreyfus affair from the point of view of Zionism. You know, Herzl decided that anti-Semitism was also in the modern Western countries, we didn't properly learn about this. And he taught me that the reason why France split into two camps, the Dreyfusards and the anti-Dreyfusards, was because this Jewish man was the tip of an iceberg. He was the litmus paper that they understood that France needs to choose between the ancien regime of church and king and the values of the French Revolution. And the result was that the values of the French Revolution had the upper hand as a result of that important civic struggle. And in 1907, France did what is called the Second French Revolution, separation of church and state. It is possible that this is our problem, that there is a direct connection between Israel's refusal to separate synagogue and state, okay, and Israel's refusal to live in peace, in coexistence, in equality with the Palestinians. There is a link there which is profound, difficult to undo, but maybe we need to do that. Maybe this is where we're going next in terms of our civic struggle for peace and equality.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Leah. We are a little bit over time, but thank you so much for speaking for us today, and thank you to those who joined us and for your participation. Just really quickly, our next class is coming up on August 3rd at 12 p.m. EST with Rabbi Miriam titled, Are We Truly Free on Agency and Its Consequences in an Uncertain World? So we hope you'll join us for that. Thank you again, everyone, for your time, and have a great rest of your day.